Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're here to talk about the evolution of cross-cloud services and the introduction of multi-cloud services. I have the great pleasure that we're joined by Vittorio for today's discussion. How are you today, Vittorio?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I know, it's so nice to see you and be able to do this in person.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time. A couple things I just want to share with everybody kind of listening here, some of the research we've done, and then we can chat about this for sure. But 89% of the organizations that we speak with in research are leveraging 2 or more public clouds. Certainly get into that and what it means for cloud services for sure. The other thing we're seeing is 73% of organizations are currently developing cloud-native applications based on microservices architecture. So maybe we can talk a little bit about not only the legacy things we're seeing, but also the modern apps we're seeing as well. And then the other one we're definitely seeing, and this is an amazing one to me, 90% of organizations state cloud-native applications are faster than traditional applications. So you guys launched some cross-cloud services about a year ago. Kind of let's start with what were they and maybe what you've learned over the last year.
Yeah, I believe that VMware was the first company to see the advent of multi-cloud. Right? You say 90% now are using 2 or multi-cloud.
Amazing.
Yeah, we saw it like Raghu, our fearless leader, saw it like 5-6 years ago, and we launched VMware Cloud for AWS. Yeah. And then later, we realized that the customers were in the cloud natively building applications because applications is how we make money and we save money.
Right.
And so that's where we bought that Pivotal. We built the Tanzu portfolio to help customers build new applications. And now at this conference, we announced more around management. But last year was really where we announced our vision for what we call VMware cross-cloud services. Sure. And the idea there is that we believe that multi-cloud needs a new level of abstraction that allows customers to build an application once and being able to deploy it anywhere. Then once the applications are deployed, being able to manage them, then secure them, and then access them in a way that is unified across any cloud.
Yeah, and it's amazing too that you also have to be clear, it's kind of what's old is new again, right? Around virtualization, it was all about consolidating inside the data center, building VMs and putting a single app on a VM and finding all these magical ways to run them. And I think in many cases here that people are taking what they have invested in VMware on-prem, and they're also starting to look at ways to run that in other infrastructure as a service, other data centers, public cloud data centers, but also I've got to believe they're looking at other services inside those public cloud data centers as well, right? To be able to leverage those VMs.
Yeah, I mean, the going to the cloud just for the sake of it, unless you have a mandate to shut down data center, which is one thing. But once you go in there and you're getting your application into the cloud, you want to be able to decompose them, right? Microservice applications. So that you can then recompose them and leverage the differentiated features of the various clouds. Abstractions bring simplicity. Right. But that doesn't mean that we're going to hide the differentiated features that each cloud provider has.
Correct. I mean, I think it's also fair to say that there are customers we talk to that are looking to get out of the data center business. But most have data centers they've invested in for years, right? And they're going to maintain some of that investment for some time to come. A lot of that is running on VMware infrastructure and software. Are you seeing customers still holding on to some of their on-prem type of services and the investments they've made in VMware? And then kind of at what pace are they? To me, it's a little bit of a crawl, walk, run in most companies that I kind of have been talking to.
We have customers across the whole spectrum,
it differs, right?
People that are saying, we're never going to shut down the data center because of regulation reason. Right. And because we optimize it so much that if we go to the cloud, it's going to cost us more money. So why doing that? Right. Then we have customers that are all in the cloud. Like, for example, employers, they do pay stubs.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And basically, they had a mandate to get out of the data center. So using VMware Cloud, which basically gives them the same environment on-prem and natively on AWS, Azure, et cetera, they'd be able to shut down 2 data centers and move 300 applications in 2 months.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so that's the value of our hypervisor-based multi-cloud approach. But that is how we started in this multi-cloud journey. with the launch of cross-cloud services, we really made a pivot to go and help customers on their native application as well. And I think that differentiates VMware from many other companies is that this pragmatic approach to be able to say, you know what, you are where you are in your journey,
Sure.
and we can catch you wherever you are and add value to your journey across the board.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. One of the things that's always attracted me to IT in general is I always used to like take things apart, right? And then you used to say, okay, what are the different tools or what are the different technologies that you can use to build things? And the fact is if I looked at, like you said from the beginning, applications today, they aren't built on a single OS that's run on a single server inside the data center, right? There's so many resources that are available to builders to be able to say, how can I take either applications or data that I may have on-prem that's kind of driven at on-prem, leverage some public cloud data center or cloud services, and then there's even the edge part of it that plays into it as well. So I think it's really unique today and exciting to understand that applications aren't designed just in the data center as they were, really not that distant future.
Well, we live in the era of APIs, right? So wherever those APIs are, that's where you can go and get the functionality you need to compose your applications. Right. Then I think the advent of edge is very interesting because after 20 years of centralization, first in the data center and then in the cloud, now for the first time we're taking computing back to the edge, closer to where it's used. And that creates, this is really the premise of our whole strategy, right? We believe the multi-cloud with 75, 80, 90%, depending on which statistic you look, are using 2 or more clouds, creates the most heterogeneous environment that IT has ever seen. And that's where I think VMware DNA really plays a role, because if you look at our engineers, are some of the best engineers in the world that know how to make stuff that was not designed to work together, work together. The difference this time around in multi-cloud is that we have to do it at a higher level. We cannot do it at the hypervisor layer because that layer is taken, and the lingua franca of multi-cloud is Kubernetes, is microservices, APIs, and that's where our cross-cloud services come in.
Right. We also have to admit, and we've heard a lot of Explorer this week about some of those initial moves have been driven by different things, and it may have been about, you're right, mandates at a C-suite level, but it's also created some chaos, right? It hasn't been all perfect, those initial moves whatsoever. So now organizations are really to say, okay, how can I put some structure, some consistency across those moves? And I think that's been there's no hiding the frustrations that's happened over the last few years. Even though the movement towards cloud has happened, it's still pretty minor, right, Vittorio? I mean,
especially for enterprise workloads, right? The front office application, they've been built in the cloud, but the brownfield, your legacy application. I love the definition of legacy that customers gave me once. Vittorio, you call them legacy. I call them stuff that works and delivers value, right? So that, and I think that the reality is that a lot of customers are multi-cloud by accident.
Sure.
And so what Raghu this morning called, they end up with this cloud chaos, right? To me, there are 5 stages of multi-cloud adoption. There is the denial.
Right.
I am an on-prem customer.
That's right. You're not going to do it.
Like your developers are not already doing it everywhere. The second one is euphoria. Oh, look, we have all these applications. Look, the developers are going so fast. They're building all these applications. Fantastic. Then the third stage is the chaos and you get the first bill, the shock. It's like, what's going on here? And then you have the acceptance, and then the enlightenment. And I think the enlightenment is what Raghu called Cloud Smart this morning. Where
I like that, right?
You see look at all these clouds that compute and APIs resources that you can use, and then you use the cloud. You use the right cloud for the right application or for the right microservices, and you can move them around as needed. And you're really using this as a tool to grow. But I think we are at the very beginning. Just a minority of customers are at that stage.
It reminds me of the early days of virtualization, right? There was a lot of, where was it first moved? It was first used for disaster recovery, for backup, for incompatibility of hardware. And then all of a sudden, production applications started to move there. And then these magic things about vMotion. Remember all this stuff that you... Now you're factoring in different locations and different clouds to be able to do that. So I think it's super interesting. And VMware's always been really good at managing on-prem. Talk a little bit about some of the announcements this week, Explorer, where you're really taking those cross-cloud services and being able to manage not just on-prem, but bring in those cloud resources as well, because I think that's super interesting.
I think there are multiple announcements. The two announcements that I think really are beefing up our cross-cloud service vision and portfolio. One is ARIA.
Yeah.
And ARIA is basically a way for our customers to build a integrated graph that represents their assets across any cloud, including on-prem.
Yep.
Right? And it's only when you have a common object model and a common graph that you can start to make decisions and monitor and manage and orchestrate and then secure all this.
Yep.
So that's one exciting announcement. The second one is our NSX product that allows customers to create virtual networks within a cloud, across microservices. Now we brought all the management of that in as a cloud service. So we manage it for you, and you have a single pane of glass that allows you to see all your virtual networks across all the clouds.
Yeah, and I think that's super important to understand, right? I mean, it helps somebody that has that VMware expertise, their certification, their years of experience, be able to bring that to that multi-cloud world in very comforting and with confidence, right? This isn't a new tool they have to go learn. It's not new, big training that they have to do. It's something that they should be able to easily, in theory, move or transition to something like ARIA, for example.
Yeah, I mean, with our hybrid approach of saying, hey, you can move to the cloud using VMware Cloud, which runs on our hypervisor, but then you can have the management that spans on-prem, our hypervisor, but also all the native clouds. It gives you that pragmatic approach to it. I was talking to Guide One, who's an insurance company. And the CIO told me, if you are a business-minded person, you'd be crazy not to use VMware Cloud to move to the cloud. Because you have the same environment, the same management tools across the board.
Right.
And he said, I saved, what did he say, like 30% compared to on-prem.
It's amazing.
And he didn't have to retrain his team.
Right.
The team they didn't even know that they went to the cloud because they logged into their tools that are already familiar with.
Exactly.
So I think that's the one thing that we need, though, and it's something that I encourage our customers and our VI admin and our great heroes out there that have made us a great company, and they were heroes in their organization using the software-defined data center and everything. We need them to learn and how developers build new modern applications, right? Because it's a team sport. They need the developers and operation and security all together. And we have built the tools for them to be successful there. They just have to go learn these tools and get in front of the developers.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because I was just going to ask that. I think that there's three different ways to look at it. There's kind of the cloud operation side of it. There's the developer, the builder side of it, and then there's the security side of it. And very frequently in conversations I have, they operate very individual teams, and occasionally when forced to work together. And I think that's some of what you can do, right? You can bring those teams together to talk about that consistent platform that kind of brings it to. So I think that's that. Are you seeing customers start to form, I'll say, cross-platform?
Absolutely.
Interesting. See, that's super interesting.
It's a minority, right? S&P Global.
Yep.
It's a great example because they did all the journey into private cloud using our stack.
Yeah.
Then they used VMware Cloud to move it to a sad and urgent use case where they had to shut down a data center in Belarus.
Oh, sure.
And they did it over a weekend.
Yeah.
Over a weekend.
Right.
Set up an instance in the cloud, moved vMotion, the application. But then, and I quote, Vittorio, I needed to get in front of those developers. Right? Because they were going wild in the cloud, so they adopted Tanzu. Now we're talking native cloud to set out those Kubernetes distribution with the policies in place so that the developers do what they like to do. And what they like to do is like write code. They drop it there, and then the operation team makes sure that but not to, we used this metaphor before, but in the data center, we broke down the barriers between compute, networking, and storage people, right?
Yes.
We forced them to talk to each other.
I remember.
Right? Now, I think it's not us. It's Kubernetes and the way you build new application and DevOps type of model that is breaking down those barriers. And if those operators don't get in front of it, they're going to be left behind.
Do you think that the operators, do you think they need to learn to code, need to be Kubernetes experts? I think that's some of the fear that I see with those folks, right?
So today, Kelsey Hightower was
fantastic.
Awesome.
It was fantastic.
Awesome. In a solution keynote, he basically said, well, when I saw this coming, I was trying to get the developers to do something, they wouldn't do it. And so I went in there and taught myself how to code. And then I started to check in some code, and I got the cred, the respect. And I don't think that's a path that, I don't think it's for everybody.
Yep.
But you can, as an operator, go and learn how Kubernetes works. You know,
Right.
what is the divide of labors between the developer and the operator, and start to embrace those technologies. There's no excuses not to do it. I think, as I said today in my keynote, I said, I truly believe that because I've talked to hundreds of customers over the last 12, 14 years at VMware, of the number of examples where customers were promoted because of VMware, what they did, all the way to CIO, it's many hundreds, if not thousands of people. Now it's time to do it all over again. And by this time, it's going to be bigger because multi-cloud is much bigger than on-prem ever was. And so I think we can do it together and take this journey and explore, pun intended, new frontier.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the kind of think of it. Do you think that there's any, some of those applications that were a little bit lagging in kind of the initial days of VMware were some of those, I'll use the term legacy applications. Do you think that companies are looking to kind of redesign, re-architect them? Because it's one thing to just migrate. That's okay. I mean, that's fine. But how aggressively do you think customers will look to modernize applications on some of the new architectures?
Yeah, what we and our partners like Accenture and Deloitte and other integration partners are recommending our customers to do is to discover their applications and then look at the ones that some of them they're not needed anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them will be retired because when you're going to the cloud, if you're doing file and print, if you're going to the cloud, you're going to use a SaaS service, right?
Exactly.
If you're using SAP on-prem, you're going to the cloud, you're going to use SAP. You're not going to run your own SAP instance in the cloud, right? So those will go away. Then there will be the ones that will have to be refactored because they need to be modernized. The ones that will be decomposed. So if you're a bank and you have an application, a monolithic application that has something that checks your credit based on zip and social security, and you may want to take that and turn it into a microservice, and now other applications can reuse it, right? And so that will be refactored and decomposed. And so that you have to have a pragmatic approach to start from discovery. And actually, at VMware, we have tools that actually do the discovery for you. Because basically, you want to make sure that if you bring up an application, you move it, all the dependency come along.
All work, right.
But you also have ways to take, for example, a VM application and turn it into a container-based application. So again, that pragmatic approach to getting our customers in the cloud.
What about one of the things that we certainly see is about data sovereignty, right? As people move those workloads to the cloud, how do you address data sovereignty?
So data sovereignty I think, is a very differentiating point for us because we have the fourth cloud, right, which is built around all the cloud verified providers, VMware verified providers out there. They operate locally in EMEA, in Asia Pac, where there are some rules and regulations, especially in financial service and healthcare, where you have to keep the data and the metadata locally. Right? And so we are actually in a great position with our partners to provide a cloud instance that is run and is operated within the territory, whether it's Germany or Italy, of all places. And so this is a very differentiated things that we do. So we support all the hyperscaler, and for those use cases where you need the local sovereignty for your cloud and applications, you can run it locally with our partners.
And I assume, are you seeing customers kind of where that may have been an issue for them in the past to kind of pump the brakes a little bit? Are you seeing now that you can talk about the sovereignty, they're able to unleash or kind of leverage the cloud in new ways they haven't really been able to in the past? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I go back to that pragmatism. We being an enterprise player,
Yeah.
having had the trust of our customers for the last 20 years to run their most mission critical applications, we understand these requirements and relentlessly go and remove obstacles as much as we can.
No, it makes sense, and I think that it's interesting. Even companies that may not be highly regulated just may have comfort to know. Yeah. Listen, it's kept in this regional data center. I know I could go and point at that, server, like whatever it may be.
And nobody can put their nose into it from
Yes, so I think that's important even outside the regulation piece as well. So just to be clear, so which public clouds do you support? So I know you mentioned AWS at the beginning. So you've got the VMware cloud, you've got AWS. Who else?
We support them all.
Yeah.
AWS, Google. Azure, Alibaba, IBM, Oracle, and then these 4,500 partners of ours that operate and help companies. Because that's the other thing, as you know from your research probably, is the skill gap, right? And so these partners, these 4,500 partners that we have, they say, hey, you want to operate your private data center as a cloud? Let me do it for you. Or you want to, get it all away and have us operate the whole thing.
Right.
They can do it using our stack, which is a good value proposition.
Are those partners coming in too sometimes from a vertical perspective?
Yep.
Are they also bringing?
Yeah, they tend to lend themselves those vertical, especially in Europe.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And that way they're able to kind of have that expertise around what that business may be doing, what's important to them.
And the specific regulation of that vertical.
Right.
Because it may get hairy in healthcare
Exactly.
and financial service. So, absolutely.
And it sounds like to me, to go back to that kind of VMware hero idea again, that there's, people have made their careers on the certification and going into running these data centers. It sounds like there's now this kind of renewed opportunity for them to look at certification and training to fill that skills gap, where they can look at cross-cloud services and really be a leader in the organization to say, listen, we've done all this stuff on-prem, we've started to do multi-cloud, there's more we can do, and they could really up-level their careers a lot as well.
Yes, we have this religious, you covered us for a long time.
Yeah.
You come to a conference like this, especially now that we've been away for 3 years.
Yeah.
The energy is incredible, and it comes from the fact that together we're being on this incredible journey.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said to our customers today, we have worked really hard over the last 5-6 years to build the cross-cloud services portfolio that our customers need for the next leg of the journey.
Sure.
Now it's up to them to embrace it, get certified, renew their skills, so that they can propel deliver value to their organization.
That's right.
And in the process, they get promoted and build their career again. We can do it all over again.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that I think there's some perception out there that cloud's already happened, and it absolutely hasn't, right? There has been some organizations that may have leveraged some public cloud services to do some net new cloud native design, but cloud is just starting. I think we're still at or multi-cloud really kind of architecture, we call it distributed cloud, is really just starting, where they're really looking at these architectures to say, how can we have cloud-ready infrastructure and maintain developer velocity by leveraging the tools that you guys are providing?
We're just the beginning, especially for enterprise workloads, right? They're still mostly running in the private cloud. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to have an opportunity to do it all over again. And it goes back to those three factors of where I think VMware is well positioned. The DNA.
Yeah.
We just have the right DNA. We have the right size and understanding of what the customer base. Yeah. And then the right partnership, right? We are the only company that can claim we are partnering with Microsoft and Google and all of them, right? Because we kind of, as Raghu used to say, we are the kind of the Switzerland of
That's right.
cloud.
I like that. All right. Any kind of to wrap us up a little bit, is there any kind of common pitfalls that you can kind of share with the viewers that they may want to avoid, or that you've seen, kind of lessons learned?
Yeah. This is the pitfall. Don't do nothing. Do something.
Right.
Learn. Get
That's a great point.
the riskiest thing that one can do today. I believe that if a company doesn't understand what developers need to go fast and be secure, this company ability to compete in the marketplace is greatly hindered
Yeah.
Going forward. So understand those developers, get the operation and the security team in front of them so that they can go fast but be compliant, and you'll innovate. It was a stat today with 25 applications a minute.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
You have to be out there building this application to fuel your growth, understand those developers, pamper those developers, and it'll be an innovative and growing company.
Yeah, it's really there's so many organizational dynamics to it. It's not just the technology that you guys continue to innovate around. There's also a lot of organizational dynamics. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great being able to speak with you. Really appreciate it. Really, thanks everybody for watching this session as well. Enjoy the rest of the conference and have a great rest of your day.